Okay, all right. Obviously, got a big week in front of us. Got to get ready for the Giants. We got a lot of work to do as far as that's concerned. With the roster here, a couple updates. I told you guys about Carry On, obviously, yesterday, going to IR. We elevated Paul Perkins to the 53, so that'll help us there with the running back spot, and then signed Wes Hills back to the practice squad. So it kind of help us there with all those situations. Obviously last night with the roster, had a trade with Seattle and sent Quandre Diggs to Seattle for draft pick. And, certainly those decisions are very difficult. They're not taken lightly. There's certainly, things that we try to do to help the team get better in the long run for us, and certainly in a situation where we think moving forward, hopefully we have some players that can still help us, even if we have to or do make a move, like we did yesterday. So those other guys are going to have to step up. They're going to have to go play and try to, do everything they can to help us to win. But the team's got to push forward and get ready for the Giants. Certainly, Diggs been a part of our team for a while, and great person and all that, and wish him the best of luck. In the end, just trying to do everything we can to help our team going forward. That's really kind of the bottom line. So,
Matt, it's obviously part of the business, but there was a reaction, obviously, from the players, frustrated. They obviously really cared about having you as a teammate. What's your philosophy on, selling that, like you just said, this is the best for the team, and taking that frustration and turning it into something positive?
Yeah, that's always the challenge. I think, in the NFL in general, really in sports or business, we're all in situations where we have friends or people we're really close with that are either no longer, working with us or whatever the situation is. And those situations, we just really got to focus on making sure that we're doing everything possible to help ourselves and help the team win from that aspect of it, and doing everything that we can to do our jobs better, first and foremost. You hate to see those situations when they come up, but, you get it. You understand that people are trying to do what they think is best going forward, and you respect that. And, you just go back to work. That's really kind of the bottom line. And again, for us, the great thing about football is it is about relationships, and there's a lot of those relationships that, change from a day-to-day relationship to now it's a, hey, when I call you or when I see you or whatever it is, but those bonds, those connections are still always strong. And that's the best part about this game. When you spend that much time with each other and that much invested with each other, that's what makes it so strong, so special.
I think you're still in the mix for playoffs down the line, obviously, in the thick of things. When you trade a starter like Diggs, it speaks volume to the depth you feel like you have behind him. Can you just speak to the depth you have at the safety spot and the comfort level you have there?
Yeah, I think for us, we're trying to win every single week. We got a huge challenge in front of us with the Giants coming up. But I think those guys in the back end have all really been working hard and developing, and some of those guys have had to really play in the last couple weeks and in some of those bigger games that we've had so far this year. Will Harris is certainly someone that's had to step into some roles. Tracy Walker plays more for us in some of those roles. Tavon Wilson, who's been a good solid player for us for a long time. CJ Moore, you'll see him. He's been mixed out there actually in some of these games too, in some other aspects. And we have some depth too. Guys that have played for us in the past. Killebrew would be another one. So with those guys, they'll continually push to get better. And they understand that, maybe they have to take on a little bit more workload or whatever job responsibility it is. But I think they're good with that challenge. They'll accept that challenge and kind of go forward from there. So, for us, we're just trying to do everything we can to put a good product out in the field this week and try to win.
When you guys trade a starter for a draft pick, it certainly looks like a long-term move as opposed to a short-term move. Has anything changed with your short-term goals with this team right now?
Nope. We're short-term. We're trying to do.
Not just looking to the future.
No, I mean, that's always, I think, the hard balance, in the NFL, whether it's in season, off season, in the draft, when you make decisions like that. When you're trying to build a team, you are always trying to balance, decisions that are good now versus decisions that are good for long term. But in the current moment, we're always about competing and trying to do everything we can to win. So that never changes, and really for us, in this world of the NFL, you're always alert for guys. Look, they might be injured. Guys might not be out there anyways. In some of those situations, and everybody that's developing and playing behind those guys, that's what really makes your team strong and makes your team hopefully resilient through those situations. So you try to put all that into play and decide if those decisions can be good ones for you going forward and also in the short term.
Miles Killebrew has kind of been kind of a forgotten man, if you will, on defense. Could this be an opportunity for a guy like that too?
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence in Miles. I thought he did a really good job in training camp, and I honestly think he did a really good job in preseason. He showed up a lot for us. He's certainly someone that's doing a lot for us currently on game day on special teams. We've just had some, very fortunate that we've had some depth at some of those safety linebacker positions and some of those packages. So far, we've had some guys out there playing, and he hasn't had a lot of time on defense, but he's a guy that I do have high confidence in. If he has to go out and play a role, that he'll do it at a high level just because of the work that he did through the spring, through training camp, and through those preseason games. I thought he really made himself better.
Last year you had Glover at that safety spot, obviously in Quandre. Now you mentioned Tavon's still there, but very young at that position. Just what are the challenges, particularly there, having so many young guys in line?
I would say that's probably the biggest challenge for us, and especially as we go through the season and we're starting to see different looks or multiple looks from teams, and especially good quarterbacks and good offensive schemes. Just the experience part of it, those guys are going to have to catch up on that stuff really quick. The good thing for us is Tracy played in a lot of critical situations last year. He played in those maybe situations that you don't have an opportunity during the game to talk about. They happen and you have to react to them. So his ability to be able to communicate with the lesser experienced guys that are on the field maybe at that time, and certainly Tavon's someone that has great experience, playing this game and can see those situations happen pretty quick. We'll rely on those guys, and we're just going to have to keep coaching to make sure we put them in as many of those situations as possible during practice and be alert and aware for those to come up.
What have you seen from Will Harris specifically over the 6 games that makes you think he can maybe take on a little bit?
Yeah. Will obviously played a lot of football for us here through Kansas City and Green Bay, and those are two really, really difficult quarterbacks to play against. And I think he did a really good job of understanding the roles that we needed him and how we needed him to play. Certainly in the back end, those guys can have different assignments based on maybe the other team's personnel. And I think he did a good job of kind of taking all that in and understanding what he was going to have to do and just his work ethic, the way he approaches it, the way he's been consistent, has allowed him to improve through the course of the season. He's got a long way to go. He's got a lot of work to do. But he also, I think, has a skill set that we haven't really tapped into yet, too. There's some other things that I think he can do to help us, and, we'll see if given that opportunity, if he can, perform at a high level with that, too. He's an instinctual player, especially when he's down close to the line of scrimmage. So, we'll see if he has any opportunity to show us that also.
What's your level of concern at this point? I mean, the second year in a row, you guys have traded away a player that both the public and locker room seems to really rally around.
Yeah.
And the results weren't there last year. You've lost 3 in a row. What's your level of concern that you kind of have to win now? Otherwise, the players might not.
I think for us right now, the players are pretty consistent with, we got to go back to work and we got to win. We know that, that doesn't change no matter what happens with the roster or with injuries or with any of it. And for those guys in there, I think they all have trust and faith in each other that are in that room that, for us, it's not going to be about one person. It's going to be about the team. And it's going to be about all the team playing together and quite frankly, really playing complementary football, and that's what we have to do, especially if there's an area week by week, we could have an injury. We could have something come up that a player is not available and other phases or other positions might have to step up and compensate for that. So it's no different in these situations, and we all understand that it is a team game where we all got to go win together. And like I mentioned, I got to make sure I'm coaching at the highest level that I can coach at to help the team try to win.
The Diggs situation. As fans become smarter, they start digging into the business elements of football. I just wondered, how do you address, I guess, the contract ramifications, the money spent, a guy you just signed to an extension and trading him and kind of eating a financial hit? Just what's the thought process there?
Yeah, certainly that's something that, Bob and his staff do a good job of understanding, the risks and kind of how all that works. Sometimes those situations are, depending on where we are at with the younger players that are behind them and what is the cost analysis based on that. And also, what is the compensation and what does that look like for us long term based on what do we have for trying to build the team in the future and as we kind of try to push into making sure that we're continually trying to keep getting better, and laying more foundation and getting good players in here and getting guys that, that we can build with and what is that cost versus, what do we get back? So we do try to put all that into play. Yep.
Patriots had the opportunity to play the Giants earlier on Thursday Night Football. What aspects of that defense and performance can be useful to you as you play a common opponent?
Yeah, you always try to look at games that look similar from that aspect of it. One of the things I definitely try to do though is look at that game as an individual game and see what happened. If you look at that, there's probably a few pieces missing from the Giants' offense from that aspect of it. There's a pretty strong wind in that game going from left to right on the field that really I think affected a lot of the plays downfield, certainly from that aspect of it too. So you want to look at all of it that you can analyze and see if there's anything there, but no different than the Redskins or anybody else they played. There's elements that you always try to look at, and really the biggest thing for us I think that's going to be a challenge is this will probably be the first time that this offense is going to be all out there together. They have so many good players with the young quarterback. They can get all those guys on the field. And when they're all out there together, the problems that they create are really, it's going to be a difficult task for us on top of, just the run game with Barkley. I mean, that's hard enough to deal with. And now you got to deal with Ingram at the tight end position because he's going to come back, or, Shepard who's outside and Golden Tate in the slot. And I mean, there's just so many elements to this that for the first time, unfortunately, we're not going to have a chance to see it on film before we prepare. We're going to have to react to it when it happens on the field because they haven't even seen it yet on game day. And so, we get to deal with it first.
You guys?
What you got, Mike?
Let me ask you one thing regarding what you just said. Is there anything, about the inexperience of a quarterback and all that, but is there any advantage a rookie quarterback has early in the season?
It's an interesting question. I would say I think there are. I think there are advantages. I think defensively, you certainly there's an unknown element that you have to deal with, and I would say from a film study part of it too. I think for the players, it's harder to kind of prepare for those guys. Now there's certain things you try to do to help yourself, but quarterbacks or other positions, maybe it's wide receivers, but especially quarterbacks because obviously they control so much from the ball and the offense. I think sometimes that is more difficult than a guy that maybe you've got 10 years worth of film on and really exactly what kind of a player he is. It's sometimes a little bit more difficult to kind of deal with those other guys that are a little bit unknown. Sure.
One more, Rupert.
Yeah.
Just Golden Tate, first time we're going to see him, obviously, since the trade last year. Are they used him different? How was he different than
there's some definitely things on tape that you see that are still explosive as far as what they're doing with them. He caught the vertical one against New England, but it's still a lot of the same, just really good run after catch, get open, catch the ball, and extremely difficult to tackle. I mean, he's got to be one of the toughest guys in the NFL to tackle. I mean, his ability to make guys miss, and he's so smooth with the ball that really that's a major issue. And he's returning punts, which is probably the only thing that's maybe majorly different from us. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome. Yep.